Hey, everybody. I am Daryl Ducharme. I'm a developer advocate at Google, so I'm very interested in the devrel.org as well. But I consider myself an entertainer by nature and a tech muse by trade. I call myself an entertainer because, as you can see from these pictures, I've done lots of different types of entertainment. And I found many correlations between entertainment and the tech world. So what I'm going to actually be covering today is how open source relates to the arts and entertainment world, how to actually engage in large organizations, which you might have not been willing to try, and what are some of the things that you can get from large organizations. And where I can, I'll be speaking through my own experiences as both somebody who works inside Google and who's been in the entertainment world. So to start, this whole talk considers the art to business spectrum, which is an idea I use when I'm doing anything in the entertainment world. And basically, at the edge of the spectrum, we have musicians, writers, and more. And the very edge has the fiercely independent artists who are more disconnected from mainstream venues and large organizations in general. This is punk rock, and it's awesome. I love it. On the other side, you have companies that don't necessarily recognize artists' contributions. And yet, on the spectrum, there is everybody benefits from somebody else on the spectrum, at least a little bit. And in the middle of the spectrum, you have all the artists, the theaters, the galleries working with businesses and large organizations to further their art. And this AI art proves why businesses still need artists. Okay. In the tech world, I've found correlations in sort of the same sort of spectrum from open source to business. And they both have things to learn from each other as well. Once again, on the OSS edge of the spectrum, there are extreme contributors who eschew corporate connections. This also is punk rock. It's awesome. I love it. On the other end of the spectrum, there are companies that don't recognize the world of open source or its value. And it's short-sighted, and I hate it. But in the middle of this spectrum, there are plenty of maintainers working with businesses and large organizations to further their work and that they want to put out into the world. Okay, so how do you connect? Well, at Google, we have an open source programs office that I work for, an OSPO, and we want to talk to you and help out open source projects. But the only way we can give support is if you talk to us, because we aren't psychic, and there's a lot of projects out there, so we don't know which ones are the most important. But I want you to know that the people in this office and the people doing this kind of work for other large organizations love open source too. We translate open source speak to business speak. Now, it's important to realize that you understand your project better than anyone ever could. And you need to, when you're communicating with us, tell us why it exists and how it benefits the open source community and ecosystem. But more importantly, explain the benefits to our company. I mean, this is the biggest tip I have for you in all, because in the world of open source, it's actually not rocket science to do this. So many of these large organizations are already using open source in some way, and if your project is supporting us, that's pretty much a good enough reason for most people. And it's uncomfortable, but when I was a wrestler, I had to explain to every new promoter, like my gimmick, who I was. I was a bad guy wrestler. I was pretty good at it, I think. So I had to tell every one of those promoters that if you actually want somebody to make your people look really good, I'm the bad guy who will make them look like the best Superman good guy you can possibly have. So it's very important. Also, it is important to share your important expenses that you are trying to recoup, because it helps us make our case with the people signing checks, as they care about how their money will be used and want to know that you do too. Navigating bureaucracy. There's probably some people who don't do this work because they don't like bureaucracy, but the truth is, open source started with licenses and compliance. So, in other words, bureaucracy is used to keep open source open. So, learn how to write your project for a business audience. When I was a musician, I had to learn to speak to bookers. When I was a wrestler, I had to learn to speak to promoters. As an improviser, it's been producers and directors. But when you learn this, it helps us help you, because even though we translate open source to business, if you do it first, we have a lot less work to do. But still, stick to your values. Strive to put your work out in the world. Do only what you are comfortable doing, and work only with who you are comfortable working with. This is important because whoever you will work with will know what they're getting into. And it's important to me, at least, that you stay a little punk rock. So what's actually available to you? Why is this even worth your time? First of all, of course, there are grants. These are basically like donations, but from large organizations. And it's just like in the art world. Large tech organizations give out money. I know my Google OSPO does, and we really like that we get to support open source projects and the open source world monetarily. But that's not all. That's the biggest one. But there's also different types of developer programs. We have a program called the Google Developer Experts thing, which helps us develop experts and their personal brand if they master Google products. And it's similar to like a brand sponsorship for a musician or an actor. And I'm working with GDEs myself now to start to tell their stories. We also have Google developer groups, which some of you might have taken part in, which just support groups of developers. And this is a very important place to do networking. Foundations. In an OSPO, in these major groups, at Google OSPO especially, there are people connected and even on the boards of multiple foundations, like the Linux Foundation. And you want to be connected with those probably for some of your projects, or maybe even want to find out about if it's worth it to start your own. Working with people who understand foundations is really important. And comms. This is my main role in Google's OSPO, and maybe this means I could tell your story. And we have so many outlets, blogs, videos, social media, discussing your work at different conferences like this. Like, we can help you out. And we can also communicate your message internally in our companies as well. And I've been in the trenches. I know that exposure doesn't pay the bills, but it can be an added bonus. When I was a podcaster, half the time the guests wouldn't promote the episode they were on, but every time they did, I would see almost twice as much downloads for that episode. So it can benefit. So also, finally, you get a voice in the organization to talk for you. I get asked about different programs and projects that I've worked with and whether they're worth giving money to or working with on some new project. And that could be you. And in the tech industry, people change jobs all the time. People move to different companies. But when I was a wrestler, we had a saying: you meet the same people on the way up as you do on the way down. I think in the tech industry, you meet the same people on their way out of a company as you meet on the way into their next company. So to recap, the world of open source and the world of arts and entertainment are very similar in how they deal with large organizations. Large organizations provide more than money, programs, comms help, as well as personal relationships and knowledge of things like foundations. So reach out to us. We love open source too. But please learn to navigate bureaucracy. Help us speak on your behalf to the people signing the checks. And make sure you share your passion. Your work contains it, so share it. And show us its value. You know it better than us. To put it short, be audacious, share your passion, show its value. And there we go. Thank you. You can find me online with that URL on the left-hand side, but really more than anything, if you want to find out more about Google's OSPO program, you can find out at the link up at the top in the middle. And please check out the blog. I've been doing a lot of work on that as well. And if you have more things to talk about of balancing open source and commercial interests, come to the unconference session I have later today. Thank you very much.